Hello and welcome to Bear Football here on the Barroom Network. John Buffone alongside Danny Shimon, and that was a fun game, wasn't it, boys and girls? Dallas Cowboys defend their home turf. They come out with a 49-29 victory. There were some spurts there where the Bears thought they were going to be back in this, cut it to a 5-point game, had a little bit of momentum, and then the wheels fell off. So, Danny, you talked a little bit about this and on the halftime report, but what did you see some of the adjustments in the second half, and then where it kind of just fell apart?
I didn't. Honestly, I didn't, John. I mean, other than that first drive once the Cowboys got the ball in the second half, where Jalen Johnson had a nice play to force that incompletion. They got a 3 and out, and then obviously the Bears got the ball back. But other than that, they really, I didn't see anything in terms of the run defense. It's so frustrating. There are times that they brought, especially on that last Pollard touchdown. I mean, I was yelling on my TV. They looks like they brought everyone on that left side, and Smith. Roquan just kind of stopped in the hole, didn't kind of come down, continue coming downhill, and then a player got in front of him, tripped him up, and then Pollard just nice and neatly just went around the edge and for that long touchdown. It was just embarrassing. I mean, this is just a frustrating game defensively. The Bears had no answers for Dallas's running attack, passing game, other than the Eddie Jackson interception and the aforementioned play by Jalen Johnson. I mean, they did whatever they wanted to offensively. Dallas did. Bears had no answer for them. And this is why it's always, while some, there have been games where, the opponent scored 12 points or, the opponent scored 17 points, the quality of offensive weaponry wasn't the same as Dallas's. And when you put this Bears defense up against a real offense, this is what's going to happen to them. And this is why I'm saying defense is a huge concern for me. While the other people, come on here and say, hey, we're getting better defensively. I don't see it. And run defense has been a problem for the first couple of weeks. Got better the last couple of weeks, and then all of a sudden now they got gashed again today. Pass rush for me, guys, has been a problem the entire season, right? Even with Robert Quinn, they weren't generating enough pressure on the quarterback. This is a defensive scheme, coaching staff. They don't like bringing pressure. They don't like bringing extra defenders. They want to use that front four. Front four wasn't getting pressure before Robert Quinn. They sure didn't get any pressure today, and today run defense was just atrocious. I mean, it was embarrassing, in terms of what the Bears put out there defensively.
Yeah, the Cowboys rushed for 200 yards. Dak Prescott throws for 250 with 2 touchdowns.
It could have been more if they wanted.
Yeah, it really could have been. I mean, they called the dogs off late in the game. I mean, those statistics could have been inflated even more. But Danny, to your point, at some point you got to start bringing some pressure. If you're not gonna get any kind of push with those front four, and like you said, they weren't doing it with Robert Quinn. They're sure as hell not doing it without Robert Quinn. For a team that is usually pretty good about being able to make adjustments, is this more of a this is the system? We're not going to bring pressure. We got to make this work, or why the hesitancy to bring more pressure?
Well, a lot of times what these defensive coaches like to do is they like to just drop more guys back in coverage. Even if you're not getting there with your front four, they hope eventually you're going to get there, and cause some sort of disruption in the offensive backfield. But it just hasn't happened. And in critical situations where you need to get off the football field, and again, you don't want to be to the point where offensively the other team knows what you're doing. They don't want to know, when you're going to blitz out. So I understand that part, but you got to mix in some pressure here. And then you did it for the run defense. I mean, when the runner was getting gushed, I saw you brought up Jaquan Brisker in the box, and he became a little bit more there involved in that run defense. There was a play where Brisker came in and got a sack. That looked like it might have been a delayed blitz or whatnot from the coverage, from the defensive backfield, which is fine. You got to mix it up and you got to do something here, but you got to generate pressure until you get this fixed long term, hopefully in the offseason. So, or else you're going to get gashed, especially with a team that's got offensive firepower like Dallas, like Buffalo coming up, like Philadelphia coming up. I mean, Dallas, could have easily put up 50 plus points today if they wanted to, but like I said, they call off the dogs there at the end and had mercy on the Bears. But, like I said, in the first half, I couldn't believe I tweeted out, John. I said, the Bears are being kept in this game by their offense.
Yeah.
I never thought I would ever tweet that out this season. And that's what they did. The Bears offensively were kept in the game by Fields and the rest of the offensive, the line again, in terms of their running, the rushing attack, but defensively, they just could not get any stops other than like I said, Eddie Jackson interception and that play by 33, the corner. They couldn't get him off the field, and that was it.
And that we've talked about what the Bears should target, in the first round of the draft coming up, and I've been hesitant whenever I talked to Aldo and a couple other people, and they said the Bears need that 3 technique, the defensive lineman, and that's what they should get after in the first round of the NFL draft. And I'm more along the mind of thinking O-line, wide receiver, but to what you're saying, that is just a gaping hole in this defense right now. How much would you be okay if that's what they address first?
That's my number one need, John. That is my
Yeah.
number one need. Whether they get it via the draft or they get it via free agency, go out and get yourself a 3 technique, a guy in the middle of the defensive line that can create havoc. Then you can kick Justin Jones maybe to the 1 technique, or even keep Angelo Blackson or keep Armand Watts. That's fine. But you need a ball buster there at the 3 technique. That's what makes this defense run. And unless you get pressure in the face of that quarterback, it's not going to get any better. And then, we're on Bear Truth, Aldo and I earlier this week, and there are people coming in defending Travis Gibson. Listen, I was a Gibson fan. I'm a Gibson fan, but he hasn't been playing well this season. This is a season I expected him to kind of step up and take that next step. And he only had 2, he's got the 2 sacks versus Green Bay. And that was it in terms of pressure. Today he had a forced, where he forced Prescott into an incompletion. That was good. But run defense has really been disappointing. The last couple of weeks, he's kind of gotten back on the track. But today, again, just out of position, not maintaining his gap, responsibility, kind of maybe trying to do a bit too much there, maybe feeling a little bit extra pressure. I'm not sure. But he just, with this defense, as we've discussed before, it is sound assignment based. You got to keep within your gaps. You got to do your job. Don't try and do too much. Don't try and overcompensate for what the guy next to you or the guy behind you isn't able to do. Just do your job. And then next thing you know, everything else is going to fall in line. And today they were just all out of sync, all out of place. I mean, I see more Bears tackling Bears than I seen Bears tackling Cowboys.
Yeah, they did look like they were out of position quite a few times throughout that game. Now, let's switch sides of the ball, though, because I think that if I'm just gauging the temperature of reactions on social media, which is never the greatest gauge, but if you're just looking at that, it seems like the fact that the offense was able to keep them in, the offense was making plays, makes the fact that they gave up almost 50 points not sting as bad, because they were taking baby steps on the offensive side of the ball because Justin Fields looked good and they were moving the ball a little bit on offense. So it's not hellfire and brimstone necessarily, because the people that you want to see stepped up, is specifically Justin Fields. So do you think that this loss, I mean, is crappy as it feels, and to watch your team give up almost 50 points, is there a different feeling around that just because the offense actually played well?
Yeah, once I started calming down, because the defense had me fuming, and my blood pressure was up, and I was all red, and I'm already a little bit red. But it just, once I started calm down, I'm like, all right, guys, or Danny, this is all right. This is what you've been saying. Wins and losses don't mean that much this year. Yeah, it'd be great to get a win, but it's the progression of the offense, and namely Justin Fields. And again, I think the numbers aren't eye popping. He was 17 for 20, 351 yards. But again, he rushed for another 60 yards. Mm-hmm. He was responsible for 3 touchdowns all by himself, 2 passing and 1 rushing. And we have an identity on offense. And it's obviously we're a run first team, and we built everything off of that run game and that play action. And now you've added the added dimension of using Fields as another weapon. And you saw that kind of not as much today as you saw it against New England. But you saw it again as a weapon, and you saw him making plays out there. Again, first half, possibly even for the entire game, he was the best player on offense for them. The most explosive, the guy that the defenders were always looking at in terms of who had the ball. I mean, they were able that twice they ran a shotgun or a wildcat play where you had Montgomery as long as a quarterback, faking a handoff to Justin Fields. And yet the defense kind of flowing with Fields, right? So that's how it tells you how the defensive player's mentality is always keep your eye on number 1. So there's different ways you can now form it. And I think Luke Getsy, just kind of going from week 1 to week 8 now, John, breaking down the film, it's just, you see the offensive schematic creativity, which is what I love seeing. And there are opportunities there. I mean, Fields is making plays down the football field with the same crappy receiving crew or core that we were kind of, laughing about or complaining about early in the season. Yeah, Mooney's getting better, more targets. Now we see a guy that can kill Harry. He had one, I think one reception was for a touchdown. But again, he gave us that big body that you and I've been talking about. Just a guy, even though he's not going to create separation, throw the ball on him and let him go up and use his catch radius, his physicality, and make a play. And then, there we go. We had a touchdown there to him today. So Cole Kmet got a touchdown today. First one since, I don't know, a couple of years ago. So,
Yeah.
we're seeing this offense grow. Now, the turnover, the almost fumble by Herbert, the fumble by Montgomery, that leads to what I thought was the backbreaker in this game was when Parsons wasn't touched. And that's something that Fields has to know. I mean, I'm sure he's going to say, I thought he was tackled. He tripped and fell. He was down, but you can't assume anymore. And I'm tired of seeing Bears players defensively or offensively not touch these players down when they're down. Just touch the damn player down. You don't have to hit them. You don't have to jump on them. I know Fields did a great job of leaping over them and avoiding them.
That was athletic, yeah.
Yeah, but just tap them down. Even if you think the player is already tackled, he's down, it doesn't hurt just to touch, put your fingers on him just to make sure, gentle tap, hey, he's down. But that was, to me, was a backbreaker because once they went up by, 20-some points again in that second half inning, that was done. It was over.
Yeah, and to your point, Justin Fields did spread it around quite a bit today. Mooney 5 for 70, N'Keal Harry 2 for 24, David Montgomery 3 for 22, Dante Pettis 4 for 18, Cole Kmet had 2 for 11 and the touchdown. Then St. Brown and Velus Jones also got in on the action with a couple of receptions there. So to your point, and I think this is what we kind of were hoping was going to happen, was you got a first-time play caller, a first-time offensive coordinator with a young quarterback. You're trying to figure out what they do well, what they can, and then you have the scheme evolve. It's not just what it is in week 1 is what it's going to be in week 17. It's not exactly just a linear thing where you see what you pick and choose. You say, we're going to add this in, we're going to take this out. Then you start molding something around your young quarterback. So we're seeing that now with the design runs, which I think is an incredible attribute that they have not that they unlocked, but they're finally utilizing here. And I think that calms Fields down within the flow of the game where he can just take off and run, get some momentum there, and then he's able to refocus and he can make some nice passes. So I think that what you're seeing is an offense finally getting a little bit of traction, despite the fact that there's deficiencies in talent in the offensive line, the wide receiving core. There's obviously some gaps there, but they're finally getting some of that potential. They're squeezing some of that potential out. Any concern with the amount, if they can, because I go back and forth on this because I want the kid to run. You don't have 4.4 speed and just don't use it. That's wasting it. But also I think, and I said this last week, I'm more concerned about him taking sacks than I am with him running the ball, because whenever you get hit on a sack, you're not exactly expecting it. You're not bracing yourself. You're not giving yourself a chance to slide. You're just taking the hit. And when you're running, you can kind of get out of bounds, you can slide, you can brace for contact. Any concerns about Fields' physical well-being going forward?
That's the thing. That's a key point there, John, is I don't mind the running as long as he gets down or he goes out of bounds before he gets any contact. Like you said, he's getting more punishment in the pocket trying to deliver throws than he would so far than he did today in terms of his runs, right? Get the first down, get out of bounds or slide. Don't try and, run through a linebacker or run through a safety and all that stuff. Just get down. That's all. As long as that happens, and that's what he did today, I'm okay with that. Now, running him 12, 14 times a game, you're asking for trouble, right? That's something that the Buffalo does with Josh Allen, and that's something but he always, and Josh Allen looks for contact. He looks to take on players. I don't want that for Fields. I know he's 6'3", 225, but you know what? Get your first down, get out of bounds, and that's a huge play, especially when a lot of these teams that you're going to face right now that are a heavy man coverage team, their DBs are downfield, back turned to the quarterback most of the time. You're going to gain about 8, 10, 12 yards as Fields has been doing. And then before they even realized, he's running with the football. So that's a weapon. Keep that weapon. And I think what we were trying to hit on earlier, John, is this offense is building identity. It's an identity based off of that run. Someone talked about preseason was this is going to be a run-heavy offense initially. Then you build your passing game off the play action, and now you take your shots downfield. Last 2-3 weeks, we're seeing more and more attempts downfield, whether it's to St. Brown today. We saw a shot to Velus Jones. That's another thing we got to talk about is Velus Jones. He looks explosive with the ball in his hand, but the problem is getting the ball in his hands in the air. Making those catches. You got to catch those damn balls, Velus. So it was to his credit, it was a tough catch. It would have been a tough catch, but it's an NFL type receiver catch that you should be able to make. So that's something he's going to work on. Maybe he can borrow Darnell Mooney's jug machine and put it in his living room and kind of work on his hands there. But anyway, that's neither here or there. But the thing is, you've got an identity now. It's a run-based offense. Now you're going to build all the other play action stuff, all the other jet sweep stuff off of that run, because now you have teams looking to for the run. When we broke down the tape against New England, the first 2 steps linebackers were doing was on not even a great play action, just a token play action, handoff there, 2 steps downhill. They're coming downhill because they know they want to stop the run. Fields pulls the ball back, and now he's got all this green grass that the receivers can kind of sneak in between that second and third level. And that's where a lot of these plays are coming from. Now you add the vertical game, the vertical threat, whether it's, again, Pringle's coming back hopefully within a week or two. You got, again, St. Brown, Mooney, and all that stuff. You saw today Mooney create some big time separation off of Trayvon Diggs there. So, that run game is going to help create big plays in the passing offense, something that I've been saying all year, something that we're slowly but surely starting to see the fruits of that labor here coming here, this week, last week, and probably, going further on in the future.
Yeah, and you're looking at this. I think what this game shows is that the very slim margin for error that the Bears have, because they were scrappy. A lot of the games they're going to play, they're going to have a talent deficiency. They're going to be on the other end of not having as much talent as the people they're playing on the field. However, they're able to scheme things. We see that they can get back into the games. We can see that they are able to make adjustments. We've looking at the year as a whole so far, but you can scrape and claw and get yourself within 5 points, but the second you fumble or there's a turnover or there's a couple bad defensive possession, and then the wheels fall off. So that shows you what the actual margin for error is on this team for this year. We'll see how they restock, next year. But when you're playing a team like the Cowboys, you can't afford to have too many hiccups because of the talent on the other side of the ball. So once again, it's weird because it was a terrible, terrible defensive performance and a damn near embarrassing defensive performance. And yet I'm not as going through the roof as I normally am because I saw a lot of progression in the offense, which I think is the biggest thing to come out of this year. Is if you come out of week 17, you say, okay, guys, we got an offense, we got a quarterback, we got a system, we got a play caller. But at the same time, I don't want to go back to the Trestman days where you're giving up, 42 points, 49 points, 50 some points. And, teams are taking their starters out at halftime either. So I'm almost like trying to make myself be a little more angry than I am about this, because it's still not good to have, it's still not good to give that many points up, but to be able to take those steps, is very promising if you're watching as a fan. And now you talked about Justin Fields' progression on Bear Truth, and you're talking about all the different things that have happened so far throughout the season in the new system, how he is going through his mechanics and he's going through the flow. What did you see? What just because we're about halfway through the season now, what is a big difference now than what you saw maybe week 1?
Big difference now over the last couple of weeks is he's a little more comfortable in the pocket. He's a little more calmer in the pocket. His feet aren't happy feet. He's back there with a game plan. We broke down tape last week or that past Thursday of him going through a progression, going 1, 2, bam, 3, hit the ball. Saw some today, as well. I haven't taken a look at the whole 2022 yet, but again, you see him back there. You see him going through a progression and he's saying, hey, 1, 2, all right, nothing here, bam, taking off the football. Or today we even saw he kind of scrambled and then kind of kept his eyes downfield and kind of, pretend like he was going to run and then just threw the ball, and then vice versa. He came back, pretending he was going to throw the ball. Defender kind of stopped, jumped, and he held the ball and continued on upfield. So I think he's getting more comfortable now, and he understands. And guys, remember, they gave up 4 sacks today, but they did it with 3 starting offensive linemen not playing today. So 3 of their backups were playing today offense. And I think offensive line wise, I think they held up pretty well. If you would consider Dallas came in as one of the best pass rushing defense in the NFL. So gave up 4 sacks, and a couple of those were just bust, because you saw one, I think DeMarcus Lawrence, another one where the guys just came in scot-free at Justin Fields. He had no chance. So, I think that's the thing. And again, to touch your point on earlier, John, is when you're lacking talent, you're schematically have to get your guys, whatever talent they have, put them in a position to best succeed. And I think so far, these last 2-3 weeks, we've been seeing Getsy do a great job of getting these guys open, scheming them open, and Field just hitting it, knowing what to do, hitting it. Today, we saw a lot more quick hitters. A couple more times we saw Fields with the sidearm throw, getting the ball out to the receiver on the slip screen or on the flat, avoiding the defensive oncoming defensive safety or edge rusher. Those are plays you're going to do it. We saw a couple of Velus Jones jet sweeps. Again, the kid with the ball in his hands, Velus Jones, explosive as heck. You can see the potential for him to score anytime he touches the ball. We just got to get him more involved now, get a little more confident in terms of catching the ball and making plays down football field. So I think offensively, you can. There's a glimmer of hope there, right? Or before we're like, oh my God, this is just doom and gloom. I just hope Justin stays healthy, but now you see a little glimmer of hope. And then I'd expect more and more of it to come up here and see them get even more and more creative as some, like maybe Pringle comes back. Maybe Velus Jones gets a little more accustomed or acclimated to the offense and gets better in terms of being able to produce with catches downfield. Obviously Mooney's going to be Mooney, right? Montgomery and Herbert, those are your 1-2 guys in the backfield. Just kind of get a little more creative and add more, players here and there. And again, this is all happening with the same offensive group in terms of receivers that we were, crying about early in the year, and we were trading second and third round picks for other teams, first round busts, right? So that's why I think I give credit to Ryan Poles and company for staying the course and just continuing to believe in what they're doing here. And guys like Pettis and guys like Mooney and guys like and N'Keal Harry, these guys are making plays downfield because they're being put in position by the coaching staff to make plays downfield. And now quarterback is getting comfortable. Quarterback is showing his athletic ability and his explosiveness. Now everything's coming together. Now you can score 29 points today. Typically when the Bears score 29 points, that's a victory for you, right? But the defense gave up 49 points. So is this an anomaly? Are defensive coaches going to go back in there and make changes on defense? And hopefully this doesn't happen again. I don't know. Next time you face a big powered offense, like Miami's kind of slowed down after their next start next week, after their hot start, they're playing them next week. We'll see how that goes. But like a team like Philadelphia, a team like Buffalo coming up on the schedule, Minnesota later on in the season, can you stop these teams from scoring on you? If you can, you have an offense now that will, is competitive, will keep you in games, and hopefully you can pull some of these games off later on in the season.
Yeah, I want to. You touched briefly on the offensive line. I do want to talk about that. I want to start with a user question here from Matthew. Danny, how do you feel about the vets, Reef and Schofield, how they played today, and then the offensive line as a whole? Given there's some there's some injuries there. Tevin Jenkins looked shook up a little bit there. What's your overall analysis of the O line?
So far, Schofield, this is 2 weeks in a row where I haven't heard his name. If you don't hear an offensive lineman's name, that means that they're doing a pretty solid job. So I think Schofield's doing a solid job at left guard. I think Riley Reef at right tackle, to be honest with you, was a relief for me when I knew that he was playing today instead of Larry Borum, because while Reef might not be the player he used to be, he's still a veteran who's played right tackle. That's a more natural position for him. And I think he's a guy it's going to be a little bit more of an upgrade. Now, I'm not saying he doesn't need help occasionally against these better pass rushers. And you saw today, the Bears were chipping. Thank you, Luke Getsy. He was chipping with the running backs. He was chipping with tight ends and helping both tackles out, both Braxton Jones and Riley Reef. So I like Riley Reef at right tackle. Larry Borum, to me, has really struggled this year, surprisingly. He's got some games where he looks good. There's other games where he looks lost. So, but yeah, Reef there. And to me, guys, and I tweeted earlier, Tevin Jenkins is getting better and better at right guard. And I think this is the spot that Neil and I, when we scouted him, we said this is where he belongs, on the right side, whether it's a guard or tackle, not a left tackle where he was originally drafted for. So I think you leave him a right guard. He's developing into a nice right guard, especially on that run offense. He's a guy that can maul guys at the line of scrimmage. I love his tenacity on double chip blocks where he chips at the line of scrimmage and then elevates to our next level and takes out the second level linebacker and actually just buries him. Not even take him out, but buries him into the ground. So I think leave him there, right guard. He still has some technique problems, some issues as pass protector. Today you saw there was I believe it was either a hurry or a sack on Fields where it looks like he was passing the guy off to Mustafa. Mustafa was helping the left guard. And I think, I don't know if there was a mix up there or maybe Jenkins just didn't move his feet in time and the guy just got right by him and into Justin Fields' face. I think that was the one where Fields actually threw the interception, but it was called back because it was a roughing the passer. The guy hit him in the face with the face mask. Mm-hmm. So that's something that he's going to have to fix up. But man, as a run blocker, just keep an eye on Tevin Jenkins, down in and down out. Eye on him when there's a play called. You see him just coming off the football. You see him moving guys at the line of scrimmage. You see him just kind of burying guys at the second level. So keep him there, right guard. He's developing nicely, in my opinion. And like I said, I like the veteran presence of Reef at right tackle, and Schofield so far has looked good at left guard. So, I think this offensive line can only get better once you get Whitehair back at left guard. You can put Schofield then back at the bench. And then hopefully once Lucas Patrick comes back, that's a 4-week injury probably. So we'll see when he comes back and he can solidify center. But Mustafa today didn't look too bad in terms of getting, anything that stuck out to me. I don't know if you guys caught anything that I might have missed in terms of, his couple of whiffs there. But Like I said, this is with 3 offensive line starters not playing today. The Bears were still able to do a solid job in pass pro.
Let's go to Matty Eberflus, who's at the podium.
And our offense, I think, performed pretty well, the entire day. They had a couple 3 and outs, but for the most part, drove the ball, did a nice job in situations. Obviously we cut that lead, down to 11 points, with the Eddie interception at the very end to kick the field goal. So that was really good. And we told the guys at halftime, this is a game. This is a game, and it's 11 points, and we can certainly dig ourselves out of this. And the guys did a nice job. We traded punts to start the second half, and then going into our offense drove the ball down there to make it a game. And then, then we had that sequence that was like 5 minutes or so to go in the third quarter, where it was, they got us to jump off sides, had the big chunk play, had a couple of nice plays, and they scored on us in the third quarter. And then the very next series on offense, they got the fumble for a touchdown. And we got to do a better job touching them down there in that situation. And then from there, we were just battling to stay in it. So it was again, the guys always had their eyes forward. I thought on offense, a lot of good positive things. I think that was the best passer rating that Justin's had at 120. Really did a nice job. He was 17 of 23, had 2 touchdowns. Rushing offense is still doing a really good job, which it has all year. 4th time we've had 230 yards this season. 3rd straight game of 200 yards rushing. Herbert was at 6.2. Justin was at 7.5. He's using his legs really good. So, and to me, it was just a matter of us, having our opportunity to really, in the third quarter there, to come back, to make that run, to make it a game in the third quarter. It was unfortunate that we had those turn of events in about 5 minutes to go in that third quarter. So we'll open up to questions from there.
You mentioned the fumble return touchdown. How do you coach Justin immediately after that, and knowing the details that you stress, how disappointing?
Yeah, just touch him down. We've showed multiple times during the course of our situations tape that we show every Friday that you got to touch guys down, and it's whoever right there in the scrum. When you see that, you got to touch him down. We know that that's part of pro football, and we just got to do a better job there.
Reflecting back, how big of a swing was that stretch right there?
It was big. Yeah, it was big. I mean, we go score. We didn't get the 2-point conversion. We can make it to a 5-point game. And then the defense, jumps off sides. They get a big chunk down the middle. First down on a couple boots and a toss, and then we didn't do a very good job really all day on run defense. We didn't do a good job of staying in our gaps, playing our responsibilities. And I told the players after the game, guys, we're going to look at the tape. We're going to see it. You're going to see it. There's no mystery here. It's about good fundamentals, technique, and you got to do that down in and down out to play good defense.
And a play like, does the sideline play any kind of role in that, as far as knowing that he's not down and letting
Yeah, I just said that on the radio. Hey, we could have done a good job maybe on the sideline. Hey, touch him down, but it's during the game, and certainly we could have done a better job.
On the 2-point conversion play, on the 2-point conversion, Lawrence comes untouched. Is it a read option? Should we have handed it off? Is that the?
Yeah, that's exactly what it was. It should be a handoff. It should be a give. And he read it the other way and then just got to throw it then at that point.
Takes a hit like that. Does your heart skip a beat a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, whenever your quarterback takes a hit like that, D-Law is a powerful guy. I was with him when he was here, and certainly, you want to make sure that your guy's not in harm's way. But we just got to make a good decision there.
Without seeing the video, you guys had that 3rd and short opportunity to get off the field, and then Pollard breaks it for the 54-yard touchdown out there. Yeah, any idea of how that got out the gates for as much?
Yeah, so we had a pressure on there for that particular one, and the guys that are away from the pressure got to hammer the ball. So they got to hammer it back to the pressure, and the ball kept getting outside. And I think it might have been, I don't know who exactly what numbers, but it was at least 2 guys that let the ball outside their arm, and that's just keeping the cup. That thing's designed to hammer it back to the pressure, and Pollard did a nice job. I mean, that's a power bounce play that they have. They've ran it before, and he did a nice job bouncing it.
Defensively, Matt, do you look at this and see issues with discipline and preparation, or do you see issues where this roster just talent-wise isn't ready to compete with good offense?
Yeah, I mean, we're going to go, like I said, we're going to go back and look at the tape. It's going to be fundamentals. It's going to be the coach and the players. We have to be able to execute better together as a group in these instances. We're going to play teams that have good rosters, and that's part of football. And if you want to be good, guess what? You got to play and compete against those guys. So we just got to execute better.
How do you look at it realistically, as far as you guys just had a tear down especially defensively. You've sent a lot of people out in the offseason. This roster might not be ready to compete with those rosters.
I don't believe that. I believe that it comes down to guys doing their job, coaches getting them to do it the right way together, and us playing the way we're supposed to play. That's what I believe.
What's your mindset at the end of the game? You obviously were taking some timeouts, trying to get the ball back,
Yeah.
and you got the ball back and went to your backup quarterback and some other backups.
Yeah, so we just wanted to get a couple linemen in there to get some work, and we wanted to get Trevor some work, and that was really the gist of it. I know that it was a 20-point game, I believe, at that point, with only 5 minutes to go or so, and we were going to bang our timeouts. We planned on putting T in there just to get him a couple reps. And we knew the game was over. We're going to punt it. We were out of timeouts, and all they could do was kneel. But just to get those few reps for those guys.
Yeah, coming off the high of Monday night to the trade of Quinn to this result, what can a young team learn from all this?
Just to look at every performance as it stands alone by itself. So when you ride the wave, of momentum like this, it can be a tricky thing, for a young football team. So you have to look at every performance for what it is. So last Monday was a performance for what it is. And then your preparation's got to be the same. It's got to be the same. And I'll tell you this, I thought we had a good week of practice leading into this. And I told the players that last night. And, but the performance wasn't as well as we thought it was, and again, my hat's off to the Cowboys. They did a nice job game planning and executing all that, but just one performance at a time.
For your offense to score 33 and 29 on the road in back-to-back games, what does that tell you about where this group is headed right now?
No, it's good. It's positive. It's a positive thing for the guys. I think that the guys are starting to really gel. You can see that now we've implemented some things, that are really enhancing the skill levels of our players. I think it's starting to open up some things for us, and it's a positive for sure.
We talked for a couple of weeks about how you have a good second half defense, and you've been stressing start fast, start fast, start fast. Do you have a sense for why it's not sticking for whatever reason?
Yeah, it comes down to execution. You're going to look at the tape, and we're just going to have to do a better job. You got to come out, execute on first and second down, get your third down favorables, and then execute on third down. That's what it comes down to. That's just basic ball. It's going to be that way for a long time. So we just got to do a better job.
Matt, the Fowler sack that set up the down and distance that led to the Montgomery fumble. I know you haven't seen the film or whatever. Was that just it seemed like he came fairly clean. Was that just a miscommunication, or they just,
Yeah, I'm going to have to look at that play. So to see the details of that.
At the last offensive play of the first half, you guys went with a shovel pass. Can you talk us through just kind of the thought process there rather than taking a shot into the end zone there?
Yes, we like that play. We like to play. We know they're going to be softer there, and we wanted to work on that shovel, and that was going to be a good play for us. So it just broke down for whatever reason. I got to look at the play, but we like that play.
Do you think Justin's taken a step forward in how he uses his legs, not just obviously with the design runs and things like that, but
right,
the way he's more deliberate in his running? Do you see that progression?
Yeah, I do. He's good, and he's got good instincts that way. So he knows situational football when he has to get the prescribed down and distance. But I think he's growing that way for sure.
Your offense is more complete now than it was a couple weeks ago, and if so, how much further does it need to go to be where you want it?
I just think it's growing. It's growing. You can see it growing, and we could see that, in practice the last 3 or 4 weeks, and then we could certainly see that the last couple games. And the guys are going to look at the tape. They got things to work on too on offense. In kicking game, we got to work on things, and we got to work on stuff on defense. So it's get back to work.
And as someone with defensive expertise in your career and very high standards, how do you process this game, giving up 49 points?
Yeah, it's just it's whatever it is, 42 points, because of the return. But that's unacceptable. So we're gonna have to look at ourselves with a critical eye and make sure that we're doing the right things. Down in and down out. And then practicing those things during the week and to get better. But it's not good enough.
How do you address it with the players how do you address it with your players when I imagine you'll just be making red X's on every single play?
Yeah, you just got to look at every play for it, one play at a time, and look at it, and then say, okay, hey, this was good. This was the breakdown. This is how we improve. That's it. That's what you got to do.
Just as an extension of that, what's most bothersome to you about the defensive performance today as you leave here?
I would just say being able to get them in third and longers. So the first and second down defense has got to be better to get us into the third down situations that we like. So,
Thanks, Matt.
Head coach Matt Eberflus taking questions after the game. Obviously, most of the questions aimed at the defensive performance, given Eberflus's defensive background. What did you learn anything out of that, Danny?
No, he just kind of reiterated what I was saying earlier. Was this is a defense, and I've studied this defense going back to Lovie Smith days, and it has a player for each gap, right? So if you do your assignment, if you do your job, I sound like Bill Belichick a little bit. Do your job here, but it's just like, if you're sound assignment, technique wise, and you maintain your gap and you maintain your stance or your position on the football field, there's an answer for every single one of these gaps. You should be able to stop the run. These guys were either freelancing, trying to do a bit too much. I don't know if the young guys, the Robinsons and the Gibsons and the Muhammad's were trying to, make up for Quinn, having he being gone and all that stuff. But, they're just, looks like they were just a little bit too anxious. They were easily being, blocked inside, pinned inside, or even just blown off the football. And then we used to see that there was just gaping, gashing holes for Pollard. The tackling wasn't great either. Some shoddy, tackling attempts as well. We talked about, there was even Roquan Smith. This is one game that I'm going to be critical on him, because we saw him make some sideline plays, but there was that one play I just highlighted earlier when the last touchdown of Pollard was, he came downhill. He was in the clear, and he kind of slowed down for whatever reason, allowed Pollard to kind of get outside of him, and then a player cuts his feet off underneath him, and next thing Pollard goes around the edge and goes down the field. So, this is a sound-based defense. They're going to go back and they're going to preach the fundamentals. They're going to preach technique. They're going to, preach staying disciplined to your assignments, and that's something that hopefully will get better, because we saw them getting gashed earlier in the year. They came back 2-3 weeks later, and they kind of fortified that a little bit. And then, eventually, this could be an anomaly. Hopefully, it's all it is. But it is very frustrating when you are unable to make the opposite team punt the football, and they can do whatever they want at will. And we saw even that Eddie Jackson interception. That was Dallas saying, you know what, we got 40 seconds and 2 timeouts. We're going to move this ball right down back on you. And luckily, Jackson made a great play on that ball, jumped that route, made an interception. And then the Bears got points right before the halftime as well there. So, it's like, once you get this defense sound, and it doesn't have to be great, because we know the talent is not there, right? We know the talent's going to get better over the next couple of seasons. So you just got to be sound. You got to keep yourself in the football game. And if they do that, if they give up 17, 18, 20 points, you have an offense now, guys, that can score, like a report. I think that might have been our friend there, Ms. Cronin there, pointing out that they scored 33 and 29 points there, respectively, on the road, back-to-back games. So this is something that you can build on, and this is something you're going to continue to build on. If you can continue to put that much, points up on the board, and your defense can be solid and sound and not give up the huge plays, which is what it's built on, you're going to be competitive. You're going to be in every single one of these ball games, and you're going to have chances to pull games out at the end. Now you have a budding, in my opinion, star at quarterback, where, he can make plays with his legs. He can make plays with his arms once he gets more comfortable. He's only scratching the surface in terms of what he can do in this offense. Once everything's put together, and now you add more talent on offense, I mean, you're talking about a team that's on its way there. And I think those sentiments were echoed. I don't know if you were listening to the game there, John, or for our fans who are listening, but Daryl Johnston said, this is the third game he's done with the Bears. He did the 49ers game. He did the Giants game. He's done this game. In all these games, he's seeing the continued blossoming, if you will, of Justin Fields, the continued the offensive scheme just kind of growing more and more in terms of volume, in terms of creativity, in terms of putting, like we talked earlier, putting players in position to make plays by Luke Getsy. And I think that's just going to continue as we get some more players on this offense and get some more players healthy this year too. So.
Well, I think a big thing that I take out of that press conference is there weren't a bunch of questions that were putting up about Justin Fields, whether he's progressing or whether he needs to do more. There weren't just a barrage of questions simply about Justin Fields, and that's a good sign, because that means he's playing well, and you're not leaving up all the narratives of, is this the guy? Can he handle it? Is he doing it? I think what you're seeing is a guy that's trying to push that, is finally pushing that narrative at least to the side, until he makes an interception and everybody goes insane over it. But I think that what you're seeing is we're able to complain about the defense today, and that's almost comforting, because we're not complaining about the quarterback position, which is what usually is the topic of discussion here. So
Right, the questions are usually like, is this a breakthrough game for Justin? Is he taking a step back? It's not that anymore. Now it's like, all right, what happened to your defense? How are you going to fix it? You being a defensive minded guy, well, how do you feel about that? And that's something, like I said, if they can just get them to give up 20 points or less, I think with this offense way it's coming now, I'm very confident they're going to win many more games than many of these so-called experts picked them to win.
Do you think they retire the orange jerseys after this, Danny?
Please do. I'm done with them. I'm done with those orange jerseys as well. I'm not a big fan of them. And I like the old throwbacks. I think they were. I forget which year those are from. The ones they wore against Houston. Those are some sweet throwbacks. But yeah, let's get rid of the orange jerseys. And then that now if you want to look forward, I know we'll probably do it later on in the show. But with Miami coming up, you have Tua, who's also mainly a pocket quarterback. Yeah, he's got some mobility, but he's mainly a pocket quarterback. He's a shorter pocket quarterback. So all you got to do is just kind of collapse the pocket if you can on him. Then you're going to be able to generate more, some more pressure, hopefully some plays from your defensive secondary, who, let's face it, today had a pretty rough game. Kindle Vildor was being picked on. A couple times Kyler Gordon got turned around. But I think, it all starts up front for me. And if front, I don't care how great of a cornerbacks you have playing back there. But if your front four or your front seven isn't generating any sort of pressure, isn't scaring the quarterback, you're going to get burned as a defense secondary. So I think those, for the most part, I think the secondary has been good this whole year. I think now, today, I think it was more of a lack of, any sort of presence up front. I think that's what kind of contributed to them giving up those big chunk plays.
You bring up Miami, and that's interesting because they have some big time vertical weapons, and so because obviously Dallas has plenty of weapons as well. But if you look at the just pure raw speed that the Dolphins have with Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, and they can even stretch with Mike Gesicki at tight end. What do you not anticipate them even bringing pressure because of the fear of getting burned in the secondary?
Well, that's the thing. It's this defense. It's based off of that, not giving up big plays, right? Allowing the opposing offense, opposite offense, being more patient. And if you're a big play offense like Miami is, where you're accusing chucking the ball downfield and making huge plays, you're going to have that double coverage, in terms of safety help over the top, so you can hopefully limit the Tyreek Hills or the Jalen Waddle from getting vertical on you. But what it does is then it's one or two less players you can bring up to the box to help defend the run. So now you have more pressure on your front seven guys to be able to kind of box in that run game and hopefully slow down the run game of Miami. And in terms of what Miami can counter is now you have speed guys going, instead of going vertical, they're going horizontal. And now you got to have the pressure of, all right, if you drop back in zone again, keeping everything in front of you, making sure nothing seals away or gets away from you. And then they break a big run. So that's going to be a little cat mouse game that now Eberflus and the defensive staff has to go back and kind of look at how they're going to defend Miami. But yeah, but Dallas had some physicality in terms of the offensive line, the running game with Pollard. They had a good quarterback, and they have a big time receiver in CeeDee Lamb, who's got some physicalness to him. So does Gallup, but not as much as CeeDee Lamb. But with these guys, Miami coming in, they're just vertical speed play, here and there. And they also run the same kind of system in terms of, wide zone, stretch you out. And then the running backs did a good job of cutting back and finding that back door and kind of getting upfield there. So, got to, again, be disciplined within your scheme, know your assignments. And if you're a linebacker or a second level player, come down as a run defender and fill aggressively and fill hard. Not like today where we saw Smith kind of tiptoeing around. A couple times Brisker came down and he was a little bit tiptoeing around as well. Kind of took care of that in the second half, where I saw a little more aggressiveness from Brisker. But this is something where this is going to challenge you. This team's going to challenge you next with speed and like I said, vertical power. It's just it's a matter of to see if you can contain that and be within striking distance to go ahead and pull a victory off.
Before Matt Eberflus took the podium, we were talking about the offensive line, and I wanted to get your input on this or your thoughts on this. How many players or how many starters do you think on this line are actually going to be starters next year? Now, I know it's impossible to tell because of drafting and free agency and all that other stuff. But if you say, how many of these starters are you carrying over into 2023? Is it going to be Whitehair, Borum, Jenkins, Braxton Jones? Like who are you holding over as starters, and then who are you pushing and say, hey, that's not bad to have as depth next year if we have somebody that can step in there?
Well, when you first posed the question, the first two guys that came up to my mind are Tevin Jenkins at right guard and Braxton Jones at left tackle. Those are the only two guys for me that would have positions on this team next year. Everything else is up for grabs, right? Cody Whitehair, we talked about his salary. Is he a guy that can be, can you restructure? Do you want to bring him back at that base salary? Do you want to maybe try and trade him? Do you want to upgrade there? He's a solid veteran. He's not going to, overpower you. He's not going to kill you.
And we'll get back to that. We'll hear Justin Fields.
You're always going to have ups and downs in the game. You can't look at one. You just got to keep fighting, keep battling.
Are there rules when there is a turnover? Do they tell you to get away or to not try and be a hero or anything like that?
No.
On the 2-point conversion, was that a read option that just should have gone up the middle, or what was
Which one? We went for twice, 2 times.
The one where Morris hit you.
Yeah. So cover 0. We didn't expect them to in and out that concept to the left. So that was my answer for cover 0 to the left, and they in and out of it. Didn't expect them to do that, but knowing that they're running cover 0, just got to throw the ball away at the back of the end zone.
Where do you think the progress is being made in this offense?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're growing, getting better each and every week as an offense. Just proud of the guys, the way they fought. We were down early, but, they didn't waver. We kept the same mentality and just chipped away. And I thought as a whole, we played well. So, yeah.
Did you want one more shot at the end zone right before halftime?
I mean, I'm just playing each play. I don't even remember, to be honest with you. I just play each play out.
Shovel pass on the last play before you guys kicked the field.
I mean, I think it was a good play. We just got to, have better blocking up front.
It felt like Luke was pretty deliberate in trying to get the deep ball game going, even though there was a couple drops there. To keep going back to that, what was kind of the strategy you think behind that, just being able to try to spark this offense?
I mean, yeah, if you want to have success in the NFL, you're always going to have to, be a threat to stretch the defense vertically. So, you have to take those shots downfield so they're not all up in your grill. So, I mean, just, every successful offense in this NFL, in the league, they're going to attack vertically. So, of course, we're going to keep doing that for sure.
How do you balance the progress that you and the offense are making with the fact that you didn't get a win and setback for you guys here?
I think just look at the positive things. Of course, watch the film and see where we need to grow and keep getting better. But, I think the offense today, played well. And, of course, there's always room to grow, get better. But, as a whole, we put up 29 points. I think that was the most points led this year. So, I mean, just keep working, get better every day in practice. Yeah, I mean, it's a little beat up. My legs were kind of sore, but I couldn't run like 100% today. But hopefully this full week will get me back right, and I'll be able to go 100%. Yeah, that was just a re-injury from last week. It was just like a contusion on my hip, so I got sacked, I fell on my hip, and then kind of just rebounded it. So I just took some Advil and just hopped back again. But yeah, like I said, just a little bumps and bruises and stuff. Yeah, sure. Like I said last week, it brings our offense a whole different element. So definitely feel like I'm growing as a runner and a passer. Sure.
What feels better to you individually while you're out there in the last couple of weeks, the last maybe 3 or 4 games? Something like clearing up or becoming slower or easier for you?
I think I'm just, getting more comfortable with the offense. I think our guys are too as a whole. I think we're growing. And, it's week 9 coming up. So, I think everybody's getting more and more comfortable as we, game plan and put plays together. Luke and, our offensive coach has done a great job figuring out what we do, good as an offense, what each player does individually well. So, we're, figuring that out. And, I think that's, credit to our success for sure.
What's something specific that you're doing better?
I mean, just, I'm just growing for real. I can't put my one thing on it, but just, growing and getting better each and every week.
The touchdown to the field, how did that kind of come together?
Yeah, I think they had 10 guys on the field on that play, but, I mean, it looked like a cover 0 shell, so I just checked the protection and kept the same route concepts up. And, of course, we had great protection. The killer ran a great route, and, just put it on him and scored a touchdown. So, yeah.
Just can you talk us through the touchdown to Cole also?
Yeah, so just play action. I think he bluffs the corner a little bit and then just runs to the corner. So corner slipped. Cole, executed that play well. Great protection up front, and it's just all around well executed play.
What would it be on this offense if you could hit some of those deep shots a bit more consistently?
Just more explosive, and of course more explosives. Help the offense.
I feel like every week we're talking to you about the hits that you're taking. Is there ever a concern that they're piling up to a point that you're going to have to, miss
The only hit that I was mad that I took today was the first run. I think I should have just ran out of bounds initially, but yeah, I mean, football is football. You're gonna get hit, so just try to limit it for sure.
Justin, as a team coming off the high of Monday, then the trade of Quinn, and then the result today, how do you guys move past, kind of a difficult and emotional weekend, try to bounce back next week?
Yeah, I mean, it's what the league is. When you're, as close as everyone was on the team to, Robert. Of course, it's going to be a little bit emotional, but we still have business to take care of, and I think the guys responded well. I think we had a great week of practice, and I think you just got to give credit to their offense. They played a great game, and our defense didn't play as well as we wanted to. So I know they're going to get back to work this upcoming week and put out a better performance next week for sure. Thank you.
What'd you think there, sir?
Yeah, I mean, it's just obviously you could tell the difference in terms of his demeanor once after he wins and after he loses. A couple times there, I just as a growth lesson for Justin, and I know he's something he probably is going to fall into, and I don't know if anybody else caught on to this, but a couple times he threw a couple of teammates under the bus, like. I think they were asking about one of the plays, and he said the offensive line has to block better. You don't want to throw your offensive line on the bus like that, even though we all know they probably have to block better. And the other thing is, in terms of the defense right now, the last comment in terms of, I'm sure they're going to come back and do better. That's fine, but just say, it was a rough game, and I don't like pointing out, teammates, specifically units, in your press conferences as a young quarterback, as you're developing, leadership on this team. And that's just me. I might be nitpicking, but obviously the kid is something. He's a competitor. He's a guy that just wants to win. And we see him after victories where he's more upbeat, a little bit more, easygoing. And today it was just, a little bit more, down. But, in terms of, again, you ask him a play, you tell him a specific play, you talk about the way he calls it, to precise, even to that touchdown to N'Keal Harry. I didn't even bother looking at that, but he said that they probably had 10 guys on the field, and I just kind of developed and so on and so forth. He checked out of this, checked out of that. And, that kind of stuff is impressive, especially for a second-year quarterback, a guy who's still developing in this league as well. So other than just a little things I'm being a little critical on him in terms of just kind of keeping your comments, maybe to inside the locker room. Maybe you can talk to those guys, separately, because now he might have, how the media is, right? They're going to take these words, they're going to spin them around. Oh, Fields, take a shot at his offensive line. That's got to be blocked better. Or Fields takes a shot on his defense. You don't want to get yourself in that situation. That's it.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, the great quarterbacks will yell at their offensive linemen on the sidelines, but they don't talk about it in front of the media. But I actually noticed during the course of the game that he wasn't running quite the same that he has in previous games. It's clear, and this was a short week too. It's clear that the hits are piling up on his body. And with 9 games to go, I think it's really, really important that Luke Getsy be careful about these pre-designed run plays, as effective as they are in helping us win games or stay in games. You got to also keep in mind that this is your franchise quarterback, and you want him to last for 15 years, not just get you a victory today, particularly given that the team doesn't have the roster to help him do the things that he's capable of doing. I mean, this guy is getting beat up. It's kind of scary to watch, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, Johnny touched on it real quick earlier. But to me, and this is something that I'm adamant about too, in terms of you do not want this guy to get hit on, and in terms of these design runs. But today, other than that first one, he kind of touched on there. He's been pretty good in terms of getting out of bounds or sliding and make sure it doesn't take a big shot there. So as long as he's doing that, I'm okay with running him. The other thing, because he's getting beat up more in pocket, to be honest with you, although than he is actually running on some of these runs, right? As long as he avoids taking on a linebacker, doesn't do a Josh Allen where Josh Allen kind of invites contact and looks to take on defenders, just get out of bounds, get your first down, get as much as you can and get out of bounds. Do not want to take on anybody. As long as he keeps doing that, I'm okay with it, right? But I don't want him sitting in a pocket as a lame duck. Especially with today, I mean, going into today's game, missing 3 starters on offensive line, you give up 4 sacks. A couple of them looks like they're just breakdowns, but he took a couple shots there. And there was one where he took a helmet to the chin, to the face mask. They got called for a penalty. That was the one where the ball was kind of tipped and it was intercepted and that was called back. So, he's taking a lot of punishment in general, whether it's running or just, back there, drop back and taking, hits. And then, it's something that you have to be cognizant of if you're a Bears offensive play caller. And I think today we saw some more of those quick hitting plays, right? Whether it's the jet sweep handoff to Velus Jones, whether it's the quick, hitting slip screens to, the Moonies or someone out in the flats, that's what you got to keep doing to get pressure off this kid. But, again, the credit him, he's a warrior. He's a tough kid. The guy comes back and he keeps, bouncing back up off these hits and he keeps going at her. So, the one good thing is that, he's a big, sturdy, well-built athlete and, 6'3", 225 is something that, was a highlight of his when he was coming out of Ohio State. So, he's well built for this, but again, I don't care how big you are, how strong you are, punishment by these NFL defenders is going to eventually take some toll on you. And he said his legs were a little sore. Obviously, he didn't, it was a bit of a shorter week here, didn't have the full recovery time. So, hopefully that's not something that's, and I believe he did go into the injury tent too during the game, second half. So I think maybe that was just more maintenance, hopefully. But yeah, again, this is something you're going to have to kind of limit.
He said he had a hip contusion from last week. And so when he got sacked, they wanted to take a look at it in the tent. So that is definitely a concern. And for those of you who are wondering, why does John Buffon look like Aldo Gandia? No, this is Aldo Gandia. John had to leave. He's got an important matter to take care of with his Rio job. And Tyler Ellis was spending some time with his family. So that's why we're a little shorthanded today. And you got to see my ugly face. But thankfully, Danny Shimon is here. Danny, I want to ask you about Cole Kmet. He scored his third career touchdown today. You have been basically tutoring, for lack of a better word, Bears fans and letting them know this is not a pass catching tight end. He's an inline blocking tight end first and foremost. Do you see a ceiling? What is the ceiling that you see for Cole Kmet as a pass catcher? Are we basically seeing that now where he's going to catch a couple of touchdown passes a year and get 60 receptions like he did last season? Or is there more in store potentially with the Notre Dame grad?
Well, for Cole Kmet, not that he's not a pass catcher. He's not just an inline blocker either. I think he was billed coming out of Notre Dame as a Travis Kelce type or Rob Gronkowski type. That's what he's not. He's not one of those guys you flank out in the slot and just expect him, to kind of threaten the seam and be a big play, target down the field. He's a guy that's becoming a very damn good inline blocking tight end. And he's a guy coming out of Notre Dame. For me, my comp was Kyle Rudolph, right? The tight end that was with the Vikings. Had a cup of coffee there with Tampa Bay. But he's a guy that within that 60, 70 reception range, he's not going to be 1,000-yard receiver like a Kelce or anywhere close to that. Maybe it gets you 5-6 touchdowns, be a big target in the red zone. I think that's where you're looking at. And now, if you're the Bears, you want to kind of bring in another tight end that kind of complements him. Now you go get yourself a kid that's more of a joker type. They line up in the slot, line up all over the field, in terms of in the backfield, everywhere. And he becomes a guy that can threaten the seam and work hand in hand with Cole Kmet. Initially, not to bring up this name from the past, but but New England, initially they got Gronkowski and they got Aaron Hernandez. It's something like that where Gronkowski was more of an inline blocker. Obviously, he developed into more of a downfield threat, but initially he was inline blocker, and then Hernandez was more of the guy that could flank out, be like a big body receiver type. So that's the kind of the thing I would look for in terms of if I'm the Bears in terms of what you're developing here for the future. But yeah, Cole Kmet is a very serviceable, very good, could be a very good tight end. It's just not the big play type that we've been looking for, like the Wallers, the Kelce's, those types. He's not that type of tight end.
Earlier in the chat, and I forgot to save it, somebody mentioned that Brian Pringle will be back, potentially back for the next game against the Miami Dolphins Sunday at Soldier Field. How do you see his addition? Do you think that he can make a market difference with this passing game? Because it is obvious that, as each game goes on, you see incremental progress that Fields has with these receivers, but you know that it's not ever going to be quite enough to be a highly competitive team, and this team has to acquire some quality wide receivers during the off season. But what do you see Pringle's potential with the Chicago Bears the rest of the way?
Yeah, Pringle gives you toughness, right? He's a guy that can work in the slot, kind of work when those, we're doing Bear Truth this past Thursday, and I showed you how the linebackers on opposing teams, their first inclination is to 2 steps downhill. That gives you a lot of that green area. That's where Pringle can make some money, whether it's those quick hitch routes, whether it's those routes that go across the screen in that green area. That's where I think he can make some big plays there, some hay for the Bears. And he's not a guy that's blessed with deep speed, but he's a guy who's with Kansas City at least showed an ability to get 15 and 20 yards down the football field. But it's another veteran receiver. Again, the chemistry within him and Fields has not been there, because he's been out all season, or most of the season with injuries, various injuries. So that's something that's going to have to work back into the offense. But something that kind of really excited me today was not only the addition of the continued passes thrown to or towards Patterson, towards Mooney, but N'Keal Harry got a touchdown pass today, and it was, I think it was his only target, maybe 1 or 2 targets throughout the football game. But it's something where I want to see him incorporated more. Not that he's a dynamic big play, speed burner down the field, but he's a guy that's a big body guy that if he's got one-on-one coverage, just give him a back shoulder throw, give him a body, a throw where he can use his body to kind of shield off the defender, go up and make a play, whether it's a 10 or 11-yard catch. That's an easy first down. So that's taking what these players have, what their strengths are, and while they're not perfect, they all have some strengths, right? And put them in positions. And so far, Luke Getsy has done a good job, at least the last 2 weeks that I've been looking at this after this little mini bye they had after Washington, where he's scheming these guys into positions where they're getting open, right? We saw, Darnell Mooney today connect on some of those underneath throws. We saw, again, Pettis making some catches as well. Velus Jones had that ball in his hands. If he makes that catch, that's a huge play right there as well. So, getting him more acclimated and incorporated in the offense. But right now, he's more powerful in terms of just giving him the jet sweeps or giving the ball, on a quick hitter and letting him do his thing in terms of having the ball in his hands. Cause you can see that explosive ability with Velus Jones there as well. So, just getting these players in positions to utilize their strengths is what I expect Luke Getsy to do in the next couple of weeks. And Pringle gives you some of that slot ability, being able to toughen and going across the middle and making some of those catches, maybe cutting out into the flat, giving Fields hopefully another viable, reliable, a threat there in the passing game.
Greg Gabriel believes that Alex Leatherwood really needs to basically ride the bench this season and really get him geared up for 2023. But because of injuries, we saw Leatherwood activated to the 53-man roster. He didn't see any action. He may have seen some snaps on special teams, but he didn't see any action for the offensive line. What are your expectations for Alex Leatherwood? Do you think he can help this offensive line at all this season?
Right now, I mean, I agree with Greg because Leatherwood, he's coming into the new system. He's learned this scheme. And then all of a sudden he got this illness that we're not quite sure what it was, but it was some sort of medical condition where he lost weight, and now he's got to kind of build that weight back up again and get his strength back up again. So, again, I would feel more comfortable leaving Riley Reef out there, unless he gets injured, and assuming Borm's not back next week. So, he's a veteran. He's a guy who he's not the player he used to be, but at least, he's a veteran that's been there, done that. So, I would leave Riley Reef out there as opposed to getting Leatherwood in there, especially because we just talked about earlier, the amount of hits, that Fields is taking, not just the sacks, but, the pressures, the hits in the pocket when he's releasing the football. So, I just, whatever I can do to kind of limit some of those hits is what I would look to do. And if Reef gives you that better option, which I do think he does currently, I leave him there. Now, in terms of next season, obviously, depending on what you do in the offseason, what kind of competition you bring in along the offensive line, I think Leatherwood is a guy that, could go ahead and be someone that could compete either a right tackle. Like I mentioned earlier, I think Tevin Jenkins is doing fairly good job at developing into a right guard. Some issues in pass blocking I have with him as well, but I think that's could, potentially with better coaching could get better. But I think Leatherwood is a guy that can come in there and compete for snaps at right tackle, depending on who you bring in next year, or even be a quality swing tackle because he's played both left and right tackle in the NFL.
What do you make of the Larry Borom, and now obviously people are going to talk Larry Borom versus Riley Reef? Who do you think should the team look to at right tackle when Borum comes off concussion protocol?
Well, I mean, I do believe in the saying that a starter that shouldn't lose their job due to injury, right? But this is a team in which the starter wasn't really playing that great. I mean, Borum to me had some up and downs, a lot more up and downs. I think Braxton Jones was drew a lot of the attention, a lot of the ire of some of the media. But I think Borum was equally in terms of up and down in terms of his performance. And I think actually heading in today, I told John earlier, I felt a little bit better knowing that a veteran like Riley Reef was going to be at the right side there, helping the block for Justin Fields today, as opposed to Larry Borum facing this pressure, this defense by the Cowboys. So, again, he got some help there. There's some chips there by the running back. There was some, tight end help there as well, which is fine, which is great. But I think just the veteran presence of him over there, as long as he's healthy, as long as he can maintain his health on the right side, I think I would just kind of ride it out with Riley Reef and just to make sure, Borum is back to 100%. Because like I said, he was not having a great year by any stretch of the imagination.
Eddie Jackson, another interception for the safety. He seems to have been found rekindled his playing abilities. This defense is really working wonders for him. Is he part of this, whatever you want to call it, rebuild, retool, whatever? Is he part of the Chicago Bears' future?
I do think so. I think Eddie Jackson has really, like I said, I've been saying the last couple of years, some expectations have been heaped on him because of the contract, because of what he did the first couple of years in terms of he being an overall safety. He's more of what he is now, a ball hawking guy who can make a play on a football. He's never going to be the greatest, more impactful, tackler. I think, with bringing in a Brisker, we see him already in some of the limited snaps. So him being that physical guy at the line of scrimmage, a guy who can make some plays, while Jackson gives you more of that coverage ability in the back end. And I think that combination so far has played pretty well, right? And I think keeping those two together, I know Jackson signed throughout the next couple of seasons. So keeping those two together, salary cap is not going to be an issue for you. So I would keep the defensive secondary together and let them grow together, right? You have Jalen Johnson, Kindle Vildor, and then, Gordon, the rookie, at corners. And then I kind of keep that, everything else safety-wise, everything's still the same. And I wouldn't touch that for now.
Regarding Robert Quinn, on this morning's Mike North's early Bear special, he wasn't against the trade of Robert Quinn, but he thought that with the trading deadline being this Tuesday, that the Bears perhaps should have waited on moving Robert Quinn until after this Dallas game, let Quinn play against his former team. And then, hey, if you win the game, maybe you're thinking playoffs and maybe you don't move him, or maybe his trade value goes up a little bit. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, you play Quinn and he gets injured, and then there goes your draft, your draft pick that you're going to get for him. So that's a risky. And then if you don't trade him and just make him inactive, and that's that's a red flag there as well. So might as well just, if you got what you want in terms of compensation, assuming that no one else wanted to give more. And Quinn actually, from what I heard, Quinn actually wanted to go to Philadelphia because I guess there were a couple of options for him, and he actually chose Philadelphia. So the Bears did him a solid and actually shipped him out to Philadelphia. Actually, I saw him line up today. He actually played a couple of snaps for the Eagles versus the Steelers game today. So, I think it just, once you have a trade agreed to, don't risk any injuries. No need to hold on to someone that it's not going to be part of your future. Even if he was, if they kept him and they didn't trade him, he's a guy that wasn't productive really this year in terms of his sack totals, his sack numbers. He was getting pressure here and there, but he wasn't really the guy that we had last year. They got something for him. You're not gonna keep him till next. You're not gonna keep him next year either. I'm assuming the plan is to revamp that defensive front. So that's the thing, is just get your 4th round pick and be over and be done with it.
Danny, do you have the Bears roster opened up on your computer there, or do you have access to it at all?
I can pull it up here real quickly if you give me a second.
Yeah, pull it up, because what I'm going to ask you is, moving forward, with this team now 3-5, and I'm not discounting the possibility that they could potentially get on a roll with this NFC North division being so weak. Who knows what could happen, and who knows, the entire conference is relatively weak. And so the Bears could find themselves in a wild card playoff run. But what I want to know, because I agree with you that this season is more about getting everything together so that way in the off season, you can now retool, use all that salary cap money, use the draft assets to really build together a tremendous team, but you've got to know who you have on the roster now that can be with the team in 2023. So I want to know from you, which of the young guys do you want to see get playing time? And like, for instance, we just finished talking about Larry Borum and Riley Reef. Wouldn't it be better to just put Larry Borum in there, give him the snaps, hope that he develops and so forth? You know what you have in Riley Reef. You have a average at best tackle, and he's not as athletic as Borum. He's not as athletic as perhaps the offensive linemen the Bears want to have. So, which of these young players do you want to see get more snaps in these last 9 remaining games?
Well, in terms of Borum himself, I mean, you've have a year full of tape, and now these 7 games of him. So I mean, it's something that you should have a relatively good, kind of a thought in your head in terms of what kind of player this guy can be. Is he a right tackle? Is he a guard? Is he a backup? Is he even a starter? That's a thing you have to kind of answer to yourself going forward. But for me personally, I picked Riley Reef just because I want to protect Justin Fields as much as I possibly can. I just feel a veteran could possibly do it, right? I'm not saying he's going to be better than Borum. Borum can come back and have a bounce back in the second half and be, okay at that right spot. Whoever gives the Bears the best option to protect Justin Fields at right tackle is who I want to start. I have no hat in this game, in terms of who I want, who I don't want there, but I just want Fields protected. In terms of young players, I mean, I think we've touched most of them. I mean, if we want to go defensively, obviously, Dominic Robinson is a guy that's a 5th round pick. That's, I saw him more coming in this year as a developmental year. I saw him as a kid that's going to just kind of sit there and kind of learn from the veterans. But, seeing that he's been heaped into playing time here, he came in gangbusters within the first couple of weeks with 1.5 sacks. I think he had a sack or tip ball today. I'm not sure what he did today, but it's something that he's a guy run defense wise. He is not someone that can be relied upon. So I think, instead of just saying, all right, start Dominic Robinson, if you do that, then your run defense is going to take a hit there, right? And we saw what happens today when your run defense can't stop anybody. So, for me, it's like, you kind of don't put him in a spot where he's going to lose confidence and get overblown here with some of these pressures and all that stuff. So I would just let him be what he's doing right now. And that's a situational pass rusher. You have Gibson was a guy I had high hopes for coming into the season, who's kind of disappointed me a little bit. And you have the veteran Muhammad. You have this undrafted free agent, Inglesby Jonathan, I believe that's the way you pronounce his name. Kingsley Jonathan is the kid that you picked up from Buffalo. And from what I've heard, Bills didn't want to lose him. He just came down to the final cut. So let's see, what he can do there as well. But defensively, I mean, we talked about the secondary. They've done a decent job with incorporating some of those young guys in there. Unfortunately, you don't have many young guys to play up front defensively, right? So your defensive line, you're looking at Blackson, Justin Jones, interior guys. Those are solid guys. Maybe one of those could be a one technique once you have your 3 technique, next to them. But, up front, really, there isn't many, young guys that I want to come out and see. Now, what's his name? I believe either Joe Thomas got hurt or he got benched, but we saw Jack Sanborn out there today, a undrafted free agent who made this team in preseason via special teams mainly, and made some couple plays versus in that KC game. But he's a guy that if you want to give him some more playing time, Joe Thomas hasn't really done a great job. I think Adams, the linebacker that's hurt on IR, he was having a pretty solid season before he got injured, so I think they miss him there more than we can kind of appreciate. But if you want to give Sanborn some play time here and there, that's fine. But in terms of once you flip it over defensively, I think there's a lot of work to be done up front. Flip it over to the offensive side, right? We talked about
Herbert starts left, comes right.
Sorry,
that's right. We talked about some of these guys already. We got obviously we got Braxton Jones starting at left tackle. Schofield's in there right now playing for left guard for the injured Whitehair. Do you want to see Jatir Carter in there getting snaps right now over a Schofield? I don't know. Again, because you're blocking and you're trying to protect your potential franchise quarterback. So up front, there's no one really there I want to see kind of take over there. So that's the thing, is like you don't have that much here in terms of talent wise that are just kind of languishing on the bench, if you will, right? So other than Velus Jones, I was talking about earlier, maybe he can borrow Darnell Mooney's jug machine and take it home and start using that and shoring up those hands. But other than Velus Jones or another potential guy on offense, there's nothing really out there that you can kind of bring in and say, hey, give this guy a shot, give this young player a shot. Let's see what he could do. Isaiah Coulter is a guy I was hoping to see more playing time from Isaiah Coulter. He's been active on the roster the last 2 weeks, been inactive, has been active for the games, is on the roster, but not available for the game. So maybe give him a shot, maybe give him see what he had a nice chemistry with Justin Fields in the preseason. It appeared and in training camp. Maybe he gives you something in terms of offensive. We'll see what he can do there. But, we talk about Pringle coming back possibly here. So, again, you're going to probably limit his snaps. And I do want to see N'Keal Harry get a fair shot in terms of at least trying and making an impact here on offense as well. So, unfortunately, there isn't much in terms of depth and talent that's kind of languishing on the bench that you can say, all right, bring these guys on. Let's see what they could do,
Trade deadline is Tuesday. So I got to ask you this question. I know, this sometimes, is a weird thing to talk about, but Ryan Poles is going to get some calls, and everybody is talking about David Montgomery, trading him, and he's on the last year of his contract. Khalil Herbert is playing really well, but don't you think that general managers might be calling Ryan Poles about Khalil Herbert first?
Yeah. Could be calling him for Herbert. I mean, I wouldn't do it if I'm Ryan Poles, because I think Herbert is the next guy in line because of Montgomery, and I love Montgomery. I love everything he brings, the toughness, the leadership, the quality person he is on and off the football field. But it's, me and running backs, I don't give running backs second contracts unless it's a reasonable, cap friendly contract. I don't go out there and put big money on running backs. So will a team come out here and make an offer for Montgomery? I don't think so. Honestly, I don't think so. I mean, what are you going to get? A 6th round pick, possibly?
Right.
Is that worth it? I'd rather keep Montgomery on his roster. You already got rid of a respected veteran in Quinn. But do you want to give up another respected veteran offense just for a 6th round pick, which, may or may not be worth it. So I would just keep him, let him ride out. Maybe something happens in the offseason where the market isn't as robust as Montgomery wants. And he'll take a 1 year or 2 year offer and come back and play for a couple seasons for the Bears, which would be great. Right. So I think, I wouldn't trade Montgomery. Is there anyone on this roster other teams want? That's the thing. It's like, who would other teams come calling for? Would they come calling for Roquan Smith? Maybe, but then again, if you're the Bears, what do you need to get back for Roquan Smith to trade him, right? Could teams come calling for an Eddie Jackson? Could teams come calling for some other veterans that maybe Travis Gibson could be a guy that doesn't appear this coaching staff from what I've seen so far is too high on Travis Gibson. Could another team say, hey, you know what? I like him, and I think he could flourish in our system. Maybe give you a 5th round pick for him or something like that. And but honestly, Quinn was the biggest chip they had, and I think this trade deadline is going to come and go on Tuesday, and we're not going to see any trades made by the Bears. To be honest with you, I don't expect any more trades to come down the pipeline.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I do think that if any of those veterans is going to be potentially moved, I do think that there's a market for Eddie Jackson. I'm sure there's a lot of defensive coordinators who are thinking to themselves, a ball hawking safety like Eddie could really help because we've got a pass rush and we just need turnovers and so forth. We're just out of curiosity. Would Eddie Jackson bring a 2nd round draft pick?
No, he would not. No, I mean, at best, you're talking about a conditional 4th that could probably be a 3rd rounder at best, and that's even me being like really, really, positive about that trade. But I mean, it's going to be a day 3 pick, 4th, 5th round. And again, do you want to give up a player like that for that? And I don't think that's worth it, to be honest with you. So, Quinn, we knew he didn't have a future with this team. His next 2 years were non-guaranteed, and the most likely the Bears are going to go ahead and let him go and kind of fill in the gaps with somewhere else there. So, and obviously I think I saw Philadelphia and Quinn agreed to void the final 2 years of his season. So they probably gave him some sort of lump, pump there in terms of salary to have him void those final 2 years of the season. He's going to be a free agent after this year as well. So it's just something that it made more sense to trade Quinn than it would to trade an Eddie Jackson for a day 3 pick.
All right. Before we get out of here, we need to talk about next week's game. The good news, bad news. The good news is the Lions lost after getting out to a 23-10 lead or something like that. In any case, they lost to the Miami Dolphins. The bad news is that we play the Dolphins next week. Tua Tagovailoa threw for 382 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. He had a passer rating of 138 today. Tyreek Hill caught 12 of those passes for 188 yards. Jalen Waddle, 8 catches for 106 yards. Waddle had 2 touchdowns. And the tight end.
It's a family reunion, an outdoor adventure, a much needed.
On it. And the tight end, Mike Gesicki, had 3 catches and 1 touchdown reception. That's going to be a formidable offense for this beleaguered Bears defense to face. What are your expectations, realistic expectations for the Bears playing the Dolphins at Soldier Field Sunday?
Yeah, again, we talked about earlier, what the Dolphins do here, what Dallas did is they bludgeoned the Bears up front, right? They moved them in terms of offensive line versus defensive line. And Miami isn't that physical in terms of their offensive front, but they do give you that vertical threat with, you just talked about Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill. These are guys that can catch 5-yard slant pass and take them, 70 yards to the house. So that's what you have to kind of be, worried about or cognizant of if you're a Bears defense. Now, this defensive scheme is made to not give up the big play. So that means you have the 2 safety look, you have the shell coverage, whether it's a cover 4 or cover 2, however you want to line up and design. You're gonna have to kind of maybe, most likely gonna play a little bit zone. So, but the thing with Tua is he's an undersized quarterback. Guy is not very mobile. He's a guy that if you put pressure up in front of his face, he's a guy's gonna have some problems. So that's a key again for the Bears defensively, is that front 7. Are they gonna be able to adjust and kind of recoup off after this embarrassing effort, to be honest with you? Are they gonna be able to come out and kind of dig deep and pull some of that pride out and say, all right, we're not going to do this again. We almost gave up a 50 burger. I mean, 1 point away from giving up 50 points. No defense wants to have that hung over their heads. So, are they going to come out here and I'm expecting a better effort. I'm expecting this defensive coaching staff to come in there and just kind of harp on these guys and have them come out flying next weekend here at Soldier Field. So, that's the thing I'm kind of hanging my hat on and just kind of limit the explosive plays for Miami, where, whether I'm not saying you're going to keep them off the scoreboard, but if you keep them within 24 or under, I think now with your offense, and we kind of discussed earlier with the ability for Justin Fields to continue to use his legs, hopefully he's healthy, and then continue to build this offensive game plan around whatever weapons he does have, and then again, stress the running attack, just kind of keep running the ball, and then just kind of, put some of these points up on the board. When was the last time the Bears put up 29 points and up losing the football game, right? So that's the thing. It's like, if you continue, and this is back-to-back weeks now, 33 on the road versus New England, 29 on the road versus the Cowboys, who came in with the number 1 pass rushing defense in football. So, that is some very good progress that you're seeing here. So if that continues, you put up some points versus Miami, kind of limit their big plays. Again, easier said than done with that type of explosive playmaking ability on the outside. If you can do that, then I think it's going to be a competitive game. That you can always, of course, you can always come out ahead here, especially playing at home in front of your home crowd and playing in front of. I'm sure you're going to announce Mr. Gandia is going to be there yelling his head off.
Will be there. Dan Aguirre will be there. John Buffon will be there.
We're bringing the muscle. Bring the barroom muscle.
Yeah, well, too bad you're not going to be there because you got a lot more muscles than I do. But that's on Sunday, of course. We'll be at the game. But on Saturday, we're going to be at King's Entertainment, and you being Barflies, you should be there too.
Nikki. I'm here at King's, just calling everyone to come join us on November 5th.
That's right. Nikki is going to be our server on Saturday, November 5th at King's Entertainment, which is near O'Hare Airport. It's in Rosemont. King's Entertainment, 5505 Park Place in Rosemont, Illinois. It's at 2 p.m. for Barflies. The bar room hosts are going to get there a little early for a little private get-together. And then after that, we hope to meet and greet as many Barflies as possible. So hopefully we'll see you there. And Danny, you're going to bring your sister and your daughter. I get to meet your some family member.
That's the plan so far. We'll see. Maybe I'll bring my son to come on. My son's 9 years old. He's all into games now, so he doesn't want to leave the house most of the time. But maybe I'll drag him out and have a good time. But yeah, I'm looking forward to obviously meeting everyone. John and you and everyone else that's able to come out from the bar room, and also all our bar, our fans, our listeners, to come out and just say hi, and we can talk about the game on Sunday. We can talk about future for the Bears, how we see that going, this team kind of being put together, kind of projecting what's going to happen in the offseason. So it's gonna be fun. I like to meet a lot of the guys or guys and girls that participate in our chats and give us our material, our questions, and all that stuff. So I'm looking forward to it, and I have it marked down on my calendar for a couple weeks now.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome. I can't wait. It's going to be a great joy to meet a lot of Barflies that we've interacted with for years, and hopefully get to see them face to face. Some programming notes. Greg Gabriel and I are scheduled to be on the air sometime after 1 p.m. tomorrow. And so we don't have a set time yet. I'm getting a massage in the morning. So
oh boy, here we go. I thought those were only for Mobile, Alabama.
This one's a legal one.
Oh,
So, and then after that at 7 p.m. Central, it'll be Mr. Shorty and Dan Aguirre on Bears Country Podcast. They'll talk about this game, their unhappiness with results. And then on Tuesday, Dan and Aldo bare their souls. And we got tons more programming throughout the week. But that's our immediate programming. Make sure you let people know about this show with Danny Shimon and John Buffone. Tyler Ellis couldn't join us today, but it will be available here on our YouTube, and also I'll post it onto our audio podcast feed so people can listen to it on the drive in tomorrow morning. And that's it. Danny, any final words?
No, just again, it was one of those those games where you're pissed at the defense and the fact that they couldn't stop a nosebleed, but offensively, again, that's 2 weeks in a row now where you see the growth and the development and the the play calling and everything else kind of gelling. Again, going in there against the number one pass rushing defense with 3 starting offensive linemen not playing and putting up 29 points. That's positive, right? But again, you want to win, and so I don't want to contradict what I've said all along, is that this is all about Justin Fields, all about his development. I think today he took another step in terms of kind of showing what he could potentially become. Again, he's not there yet, but just seeing he's more comfortable in the pocket, just going through. I see him going more through progressions now. Maybe he's just developing more confidence in the play calling, in the blocking and everything there. So, but again, everything starts and ends with this rushing attack, and I think this is what we kind of talked about is the Bears on offense. One thing we couldn't ever, predict or put our finger on in terms of under the Nagy regime is what are they on offense? We know what they are in offense here. They are a run first running team, and everything else is built off of that rushing attack. So, we'll see how this plays out the rest of the season. But, as long as their defense keeps them in the games, I think offensively now they have the potential to kind of maybe, steal a couple of games out here and there and end up, like I said, with, 6, 7, 8 victories by the end of the season.
Very good. For Danny Shimon, John Buffone, Tyler Ellis, my name is Aldo Gandia. We'll see you all very soon. Take care, everybody.